she'll have a line item for it, but we just need to make sure that number is stay high more than the like we got. Right. That'll be the senior staff.
That's right.
Right.
All right, good morning. We'll go ahead and call this workshop session into order at this time. And we have one agenda change, and that will be added item 6.1 to risk management and insurance program update. All right. So that'll take us into section 3.1, recognition of Choctawhatchee High School Indianettes dance team, state champions at the 2025 Universal Dance Association, UDA, Florida Championships, Small Varsity Pom Division, presented by Superintendent Chambers. There are no administrative personnel appointments. Public comment 5.1. Then section 6, committee and staff reports. 6.1, risk management and insurance program update. Superintendent?
Thank you, Dr. White. Appreciate it. Ms. Cato, if you'd come forward.
Welcome, Ms. Cato.
Hi, good morning. So the last time I came in front of you guys not too long ago, we talked about the insurance and benefits side of risk management. And then today we're going to talk about the property casualty and workers' comp side of risk management. So the first thing I want to talk about is our insurance company who we partner with, which is the Florida School Board's Insurance Trust. We call them FSBIT. And we want to talk about kind of what they do. So they provide our insurance services to other districts in the state of Florida. They help with claims administration, our risk management, as like providing training to us as risk managers, loss control, and then they have a broad market access, which, you know, if we're trying to do it ourselves, it would be hard to have that kind of outreach that they have. So these, I didn't realize it was so hard to see on there. I'm sorry. But this is...
Probably just for me.
This is an insurance market overview, but it's a contributing, these are like a list of contributing factors of kind of what impacts our renewal. And we should be getting that soon. That's on my next slide. But some of the things here that are market disruptors are things with inflation, with auto and technology changes. And then we have general liability, so increase to catastrophic losses, things of that nature. So all of these things play a role in how the renewal is going to be assessed. So last year, I just wanted to include last year's about this time, our property value was at 1.1 billion. And since we've increased, you know, property values, this is going to increase obviously, but we don't know exactly what it is yet. We just recently turned in all the square footage and things of that nature. So we're waiting for that renewal. Once that comes back, you know, we can do a little bit of an update, just so you know where we're standing at the moment. So FSBIT had their winter conference not too long ago, and there was a presentation by Darren Norris from the Office of Safe Schools with the Department of Education. So these items here, you actually have a handout in your packet that expands these items for your benefit because some of it does affect the school board and the superintendent as well. If you do get to reading them and you want to meet with me one-on-one, we can do that. Another thing I wanted to just talk about briefly was just a little educational component on what is risk management and what do we do anyway. So the big deal about risk is it can be costly, impacting humans, their lives, and then increasing our success if we make good decisions based on risks. So we want to be proactive, not reactive, just like with our benefits. We want to do the same thing on the risk side of the house as well. We want to look at the big picture, and then we're going to make sure that our claims process are ever changing and tweaked to fit our needs. And then we keep up with our training and engagement with FSBIT to do those things better. So I just want you to know what happens when a claim is made. This is with property, this is auto, this is workers' comp. On our side of the house, my team are inputting those claims information. We are reaching out to make sure that the facilities are safe for that person. So maybe if they were injured because of something that occurred on the facility property, we go and make sure that somebody is tending to that and fixing it. We follow up with the adjusters. We're getting photographs of any of the vehicles, the situation, police reports. We're pulling all of that, videos, and then we're submitting that data to FSBIT on behalf of the facility. FSBIT then gets that, and they investigate all of the validity of those items, and then they are working the liability and subrogation potential. Subrogation just means, hey, if they have other insurance, we're going to file that. And then we track and monitor through them the trends and how it affects us as well. So this is the meat and potatoes of what you guys really want to see. These are our top 10 workers' comp causes this fiscal year. The red piece of the pie pulled out there is just struck by or injured by students upon our teachers. So that's a big component. And some of the other ones you can tell there are like falls and slips and different things that are happening. So that's just one component there.
What was the red again?
Oh, this is teachers that are being struck or injured by students.
25 represents 25 incidents?
That's correct. Just in the last fiscal year, yeah.
I'm assuming you guys keep that historical data,
Yes, sir.
so I'm just curious, how does that look compared to past years?
That's a good question. I can get that together and make sure we
All right.
we go over that as well. I
And
know that
think
it's
also, Dr.
increasing.
White, this is also a component when you look at our legislative priorities of what we're talking about in terms of behaviors. I think if you broke these 25 down, I think they'd also potentially be in certain classrooms and programs as well. But this is what we're talking about in terms of these legislative priorities and getting that partnership as well.
This next one is considering our property and casualty causes this fiscal year. And I want to point this out because when you first look at this, the long yellow or orange line at the bottom can seem like, wow, there's a lot there. And even though there is a lot, the financial component of it isn't quite as costly as the other two with the red arrows up above. So the general liability and the property and casualty part is a little bit more significant than just the auto liability component there. So if you're concerned with what the general liability is, just so everyone's on the same page, this is like when someone visits one of our properties and may become injured, maybe a parent is visiting to watch a theater production that's being done or whatever, maybe they slip and fall and hurt themselves, we're paying for that. So these are just different components that are included in that little bucket there.
Ms. Cato.
Yes, sir.
So go
I'm
back
sorry.
to the slide. So first party property damage, could you explain that one real quickly?
So the first party property damage this is us filing the claim no matter if we caused it or not. So we're trying to make sure that we're collecting on that insurance regardless of who processed the claim. And just like that subrogation, we're going to seek, we can do like 80% insurance claim on our side, 20% on the others if somebody also hit us or vice versa, whoever was at fault. Anything else with that? No, it's a lot of information to pour on you at once. But I just want to let you guys know I think we're on a good trajectory. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Ms. Cato. Colleagues, any questions or comments? We're all good?
I'll just state again how much I truly personally appreciate the fact that as a school district that we have taken risk management to a new level. Ms. Cato, I know you're new into your position, but I appreciate the fact that you've really come in running and trying to elevate it to new heights. And this presentation was definitely a great presentation just to, show just what exactly happens within risk management and how a lot of this is things that with proper training and reinforcement, these are things that we can hopefully be able to save money for the district in the future. And FSBIT and our risk management working together, I think, is making big strides to improve that. And I know the question was brought about historical data. I know there's going to be some that go up, but a lot that we're probably going to see on a downward trajectory just because of the fact that we've taken risk management to a new level. So.
Yeah, and the next time we meet, maybe, you know, I can do that little bit of a comparison. I apologize, but I'll make sure I can add that in there as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So that'll take us now to consent agenda. 7.1 approval. 7.2 to approve the minutes of the special meeting, minutes of the workshop of January 27th, minutes of the regular meeting January 27th, all recommended by the superintendent. 7.3 appropriation of District 2 School Board Member Capital Outlay Funds to Mary Esther Elementary School for Clear Touch panels in the amount of $2,500, presented by Mr. Destin and recommended by the superintendent. 7.4 appropriation of District 3 School Board Member Capital Outlay Funds to Okaloosa STEM Academy for Clear Touch panels in the amount of $5,725, presented by Ms. Evanchek and recommended by the superintendent.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like
Yes,
to
sir.
thank Mrs. Zanchek for assisting STEM in that. Thank you very much.
All right. Yep. All right, so 7.5, appropriation of District 4 School Board Member Capital Outlay Funds to Riverside Elementary School for a sound system in the amount of $2980.36, presented by Mr. Bryant and recommended by the superintendent for approval. Let me clarify that, $2,980.36. 7.6, appropriation of District 4 School Board Member Capital Outlay Funds to Okaloosa STEM Academy for Clear Touch panels in the amount of $5,725, presented by Mr. Bryant and recommended by the superintendent.
And Mr. Chair, I'd like
Yes,
to
sir.
thank Mr. Bryant for assisting STEM Academy in that.
Well, and if I can comment, STEM, even though it's in your zone, all of us are impacted by STEM because we have students from across the county that go there. So helping not only STEM, but all of our schools it's a team effort. So it was an honor to help.
All right, 7.7, appropriation of District 4 School Board Member Capital Outlay Funds to Mary Esther Elementary School for Clear Touch panels in the amount of $3,443, presented by Mr. Bryant and recommended by the superintendent. 7.8, appropriation of District 5 School Board Member Capital Outlay Funds to Okaloosa STEM Academy for Clear Touch panels in the amount of $11,450, presented by Mr. Brett Heinley and recommended by the superintendent for approval.
And Dr. White,
Yeah.
I would say I was over at STEM the other day, Miss Nihil Taylor. So we were walking around and we were talking about the Clear Touches. And so she was blown away that she had the ability to ask multiple board members. She's a new principal, as you know. So she was extremely appreciative just sharing that information.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Dr. White, I have a question. I see Mr. Mitchell is in the audience. So, with our new seat management contract and us purchasing these Clear Touches, how's that going to affect in the future? Because we get a lot of requests for Clear Touches.
Yes, we do.
Under the terms of the new contract, every seat management device or every Clear Touch that you buy is purchase and support right now. So when you guys buy it for a school, you send it to school, then there has to be a monthly support cost that's added. How that's actually done is either going to be paid by the schools or the district, depending on how we make that decision, and that's some discussions we have yet to have with finance, but that is in the works. But the ultimate plan would be to have those supported one way or the other.
So in the future, after this goes into effect in a couple of months, would we be still buying, if we get requests from schools to purchase Clear Touches, would that still be something we would do, or would that go through Jacobs Titan?
You could still buy Clear Touches for schools after that point.
Okay.
Also, do we have a schedule of the Clear Touches and what schools are going to in the future in this new plan?
There's no deployment of Clear Touches in the seat management plan like it is now. Basically, what we've done is we've set aside a plan. The way the contract is written is to take care of the ones we already have in the district. So as new ones are added back and forth, that's part of just incoming or bring them into the seat management program. A plan for deploying those is something that we would be looking at with curriculum on who would be the next wave to get them and that kind of piece. We don't have that for you yet.
Okay.
And that's a good question. So as you might remember, so algebra, geometry, biology, third grade, and others. So there's been a priority in specific content areas. As we go to the new seat management contract, want to make sure that those devices are supported. But then Mr. Spolsky, Ms. Lightbourne are also looking with Mr. Meyer on the capital budget side of how many clear touches we will deploy each year as we go forward, so it's done in a systematic way. Your continued support, and that just helps expedite clear touches getting out. We would love to see in the future that this is a standard across the district, but as you know, these devices, they do cost money, but they are excellent in terms of what they do for teaching, for engagement, and just looking at in terms of becoming more modern in our classrooms.
And this data may be in existence somewhere, and I just don't know where to look. But it might be helpful if we had a list of all the schools and simply the number of clear touch panels that they have
Absolutely.
on hand.
That's something we can prepare for you.
Yeah, it'd be, it's just simple. Just, yeah.
Absolutely.
Or anything else? All right, thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
No problem.
All right, 7.9, Budget Amendment Number 4, Fiscal Year 24-25, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the Superintendent. 7.10, Monthly Financial Statement for December 2024, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the Superintendent. 7.11, Invoices to be approved for payment, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the Superintendent.
Mr. Chair, I have a
Yes, sir.
question on that.
Yes, sir.
This is just a one-off, right? These invoices, if the POs were put in, it wouldn't be a board. Right, okay, that's fine, yeah, all right.
All right, 7.12, School Donations, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the Superintendent.
Oh, I do have a
Yes, sir.
question on that one as well.
Yes, sir.
Is that fiscal year or calendar year? Fiscal year. Fiscal year, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hinley. 7.13, Authorization to appropriate federal impact aid funds and make a payment in the amount of $83,520 to charter schools, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the Superintendent. And I guess I should go ahead and add, as required by law. 7.14.
Mr. Chair, I have a question on that one.
Sure, sure.
So I was looking through that. It says children residing on federal property, but parents not employed on federal property.
FIC cards. I think that's what you're referring to.
Right.
Is that right, Ms. Perry?
Where do kids live on federal property and their parents don't work on there?
Honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. These are just the categories that.
Right.
they
That one
give
just
us.
caught me.
Yeah, it's odd, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, and there's a long list of categories, right?
There is.
there is,
There is.
there is.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious on
Yeah,
that.
it's just an example.
It's the way the federal government chooses to reimburse us.
Okay.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Sounds like one of those. Like a Doge.
Yeah, AI issue. All right. Okay, 7.14, application to the state of Florida for safety and security of school buildings grant, presented by Mr. Dean and recommended by the superintendent. 7.15, surplus of school buses, presented by Mr. Gore and recommended by the superintendent. 7.16, application for 24-25 school year renewal of AFRL EFA initiative request for the district science department, presented by Ms. Ellis and recommended by the superintendent. 7.17, collaboration opportunity for MTSS professional development during the 25-26 school year, presented by Ms. Rebecca Harold, specialist, student services, and recommended by the superintendent.
Mr. Chair, I have a question
Yes,
on
sir.
that one.
Yes, sir.
The preface here says University of Florida Board of Trustees, but if you open it up, it says University of South Florida. So is it USF or UF?
I'd have to get that clarification for you.
I think it's USF, looking at the memorandum. So,
The memorandum of agreement is with USF.
okay. So the preface should be changed.
Need a correction? Okay.
I'm a little sensitive because I spent tuition money in USF, so.
Built a few buildings, probably. Okay. All right, 7.18, Computer Science Teacher Bonuses Grant Application for fiscal year 24-25, presented by Ms. Jennifer Beasley, Program Director, and recommended by the Superintendent. 7.19, Reimbursement of Internal Funds to Center 0581, presented by Ms. Perry, and recommended by the Superintendent. All right, that takes us down to Section 8, Superintendent's Human Resources. 8.1, Information Only, Employees on Admin Leave, presented by Dr. Hale. 8.2, Information Only, Deferred Retirement Option Program, presented by Dr. Hale. 8.3, Forgiveness of 4 workdays for employees due to inclement weather, January 21st through January 24th, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the Superintendent.
So with that, I'm assuming we don't have to make anything up.
We are good right now, yes, ma'am.
Right.
Does that still go to the state for their approval, or is that just something we can do, or how does that work?
My understanding right now, Dr. White, is that we've covered our minutes because we have extra minutes built in. Some of the high schools may have to adjust some of their senior exam schedules, but as far as our elementary and middle schools go, we're good.
Okay, all right. I just remember long ago you had to ask permission from the state of Florida, so.
Yes, sir. As long as we meet the minute requirements, we're in conjunction with
Well,
the.
typically, how many days do we build into the calendar? I always thought it was 5 days.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. 8.4, out-of-field report for the 2024-2025 school year, presented by Ms. Duron and recommended by the superintendent. 8.5, employment separations, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. 8.6, personnel recommendations, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. 8.7, employee transfers, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. 8.8, employee suspension, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. 8.9, employee suspension, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. 8.10, reinstatement reimbursement of sick leave due to line of duty illness, injury, medical examination, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. And then 8.1, leave without pay, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. No items on discussion. Section 10, construction program owners status report. Mr. Heinley, I think, is this the week that we receive that, or is it the next meeting?
It's next week.
Okay.
I have a meeting after this workshop.
Yes, sir.
And I'll report on it.
Okay.
Following meeting.
All right, very good. Thank you. All right, Mr. Attorney, your business?
No report this morning.
All right, Superintendent, your business, sir.
Thank you, Dr. White, School Board. We do have a few announcements and then 2 presentations as well. I want to start off by saying we have an award recipient in our midst, and that is Mr. McGinnis, who last week received the Dennis Brown Servant Leader Award by the Niceville Chamber. And so he was presented with that last Thursday for his work that he's done just over the years and years of being a servant leader. So I thought that was fantastic. I wanted to share that.
Congratulations, Mr. McGinnis.
Also, just the reminder, it's amazing. It's already kindergarten registration time. So that's happening, and you can find information on the website. I think you may know this, but I think it's worth repeating or sharing that Mrs. Sheffield, a math teacher at Fort Walton Beach High School, and she received the Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching, one of 336 teachers across the nation. And you just think about here, we have 2,000 teachers, let alone across the nation, how many. But this award was established in 1983, and what I thought was interesting here, it's the highest honor the U.S. government bestows on K-12 math and science teachers. And Mrs. Sheffield's been at Fort Walton for approximately 24 years, teaching Algebra 2 honors, AP statistics amongst things, but just a fantastic representation of the teachers of Okaloosa County. But as Mr. Spolsky said, she might be one of the best algebra teachers, he said, in the Southeast, and then he went on to say maybe the nation. But she does a great job. Do want to remind the board that we have 3 ribbon cuttings coming up here soon. We have Niceville High School's multi-purpose building coming up on February 14th, Shalimar Elementary, the cafetorium February 27th, and then Edwin's Elementary, the cafetorium on March 5th. Do want to remind the board the CTE College and Career Signing Day. And as you remember, going back several years ago, we said, we do signing days for athletics. Why don't we do signing days for career and technical education? So that will be coming up on April 17th from 10 a.m. to 12. If you remember, we started at the Crestview Community Center, and now we're at the Mattie Kelly Arts Center. So it's growing. Going on to and I'm not going to go too far on this. Mrs. Ivanchik might have some words on this, but the Okaloosa Public Schools Foundation, the 5th Annual College and Career Fair, I'll just say that too is continuing to grow. Just great opportunity for students. It's now happening during the day versus on a Saturday. And then it's Black History Month, and we will continue with door decorating contests, art contests, and then from the state side, the Governor and First Lady DeSantis's push throughout the state is an essay contest, and their theme is honoring African American contributions to Florida's success. I did want to share that before we go into a couple presentations. We had a loss of one of our valued employees. That's always hard, especially in the manner in which it occurred. I will say to the board, Ms. Armstrong over there at Edwin's, the faculty and staff, the way that they wrap their arms around each other. When we pulled up the other day, on that day, I saw administration and staff from Bruner, from Fort Walton Beach High School and other schools that came right away to support. There were folks from the district office there to support as well. But when we walked into the school building, those kids were shielded, so to speak. And I think you'd be very proud of the employees and what they did. But our condolences go out to this gentleman and his family. Just very hard, very hard. As you know, last week we went to Tallahassee, and we met with many different legislators, representatives, senators. We met with the Commissioner of Education, spent about 45 minutes with him. We met with budget folks as well, and I was very proud. Dr. Hale kind of took the lead on this and helped set up the meetings with our new lobbyist, and it was well worth it. Mr. Bryant was there with us, Mr. Spolsky, Dr. Hale, myself, and Catherine Card. And I wanted Dr. Hale to come forward and just share just a few highlights of that, but I think it was very beneficial, and especially the folks that we were able to sit down and speak with.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. It was a great trip to Tallahassee. It was very, very robust schedule that we had. We literally hit the ground running from the time we got to Tallahassee to the time we left. I see Mr. Bryant nodding his head, and I did appreciate your social media post this morning acknowledging the efforts of Mr. Williamson and Oak Strategies, kind of aligning all of those things. As we were in the Capitol building and in the Department of Education, it was clear that we had made a great decision to bring them on because of the connections and the relationships that he had already established. We got into many different offices. I would dare say we would not have been able to get in on our own just with me reaching out and making a phone call. The probable next Speaker of the House, we sat in her. She's a teacher by trade, but she's a very no-nonsense Representative Kennedy, and she gave us some time. It was great talking to her. We were able to see Senator Gates and Pat Maney, our local representatives as well. But the great thing about it, watching the superintendent interact with these legislators and the Secretary of Education, Mr. Diaz, we seem to be on the same page, coming from a position of grounded foundation with wanting to take care of our students, but also wanting to take care of our teachers. They were very interested in our priorities, specifically with the behavioral requests. Some of them did not fully appreciate until the superintendent outlined the reality of education these days, to kind of give that a kind of a realism to the legislature as we're talking to them. They were very, very interested in the things that we provided to them from an Okaloosa standpoint, but also we delivered our information as a benefit for the whole state and not just Okaloosa, and that kind of resonates with them. It was really, really great listening to the commissioner at the end of the day talk about some of the things that they are pushing for from the department in terms of making teachers' jobs more palatable, so to speak, from a certification standpoint, from a requirement to maintain, from a retention standpoint, not just the recruitment standpoint. So it was really, really great having their eyes and ears on our superintendent, just really delivering the Okaloosa needs. And I will tell you that it seemed to resonate with most of them. It seemed to resonate with most of them, and it was just a privilege to be there.
And I would just conclude by saying, and you all may have some comments as well, but I think the fact that we bring it to this board and it's a resolution before the board, I think that also means something to the legislators. So I think it was definitely a worthwhile visit.
And the one thing that I would say before I sat down is that we're not done. We have more meetings to engage. We had some folks that we wanted to see, but you know, when certain people land in Tallahassee the same day you do, kind of the schedule gets deviated or changed a little bit. And so we do have some of our local representatives that we'll be meeting with in the coming days, maybe not at Tallahassee, but here locally, just to continue to spread the word and seek to enact some of this needed legislative change for education.
I have two comments on that. First one, Mr. Bryant, don't we have something, doesn't FSBA have something in March similar?
So yes, FSBA does a day in the legislature every March, or every, whenever session is in. I know it changes during election years and all, but yes, we do have that. This particular meeting was not FSBA related. It was strictly for Okaloosa County Schools. So.
And my second comment, when we do legislative priorities, I learned this at our finance conference. So our 1.5 mil that we get used to be 2.0, and it dropped in 2010-ish with a promise that it would return. Now we're 14 years later, and it hasn't returned. I think that's something that we should consider as a board on our future legislative priorities and work throughout the other districts to make that. I mean, 2.0 was the standard prior to 2010. So, I mean, that's something that the state needs to look at again and get reminded of, I should say.
I'll second that. That was a really helpful conference to attend, and I was sort of puzzled at why, with the clear capital needs throughout the state, that the legislature just refused to want to give us that, to move it and make it possible to get access to that other $500,000 for clearly everything from a capital standpoint, but really a security standpoint. I was sort of befuddled why, given the needs for, single point entry, the fencing, the security cameras that were constantly going to be asked to be upgraded throughout the next 10 years on a continuing basis as technology, just to deny us when we know that it's a clear need was sort of wild to me, and something that maybe we could use as a leverage point if we as a board decide that that's a position we want to take to try to make sure that just even from a security standpoint, we could get access to that money in the future. Dr. Hale, I know that you had mentioned that you brought up, and there seemed to be a receptive audience with the legislators on the behavioral problems. I was alarmed by the 25 incidents in the last fiscal year with the teachers being, or staff, I'm sure it happens on the buses, employees being attacked by some of our students. Specifically, did the legislature or did the legislators give you any idea how they might bring any strategies or resources specifically to address the issue? Because I know it's deeply complicated. So where do they see? What did we ask of them, and where did they see their role?
Well, so I can tell you that there's been some language move forward into writing. I haven't seen that language yet on behalf of some of our local representatives. But one thing that I can tell you is, as they were talking through this, one of the questions that they would always ask us is, our local efforts, and we were able to point to some of our risk management things that we're doing as far as the vector training, and also some of the, with regard to the ESE classrooms and some of our most challenging students with some different patch side, while they start to try to figure out how they're going to contribute on their side. But I do know that there has been some language written in there, but it's an ongoing conversation. We continue to have training opportunities and different opportunities here locally to try to make things better for these teachers in these challenging classrooms. Like Mr. Chambers said, I think if we were to categorize those 25 that you saw on the risk management chart earlier, I think you're going to find a commonality to the types of classroom that they're in. Okay. And so whether it be the ESE related type behaviors, or whether it just be a challenging type of student that we've seen before this board we were very clear in some of the language that we asked of them. We gave them some supporting documentation, and so I think that's an ongoing conversation that their staffs and themselves are really looking into right now. So that's more to come on that. But like I said, they're really very interested in the topic, seeing what they can do, but also what are we doing.
And I would add to that, because we shared with them, we said when you have students that, let's just say, have an IEP, and there's processes that you have to go through. So you have to look at, does the student have a functional behavior assessment? Then does the student have a behavior intervention plan? Does the behavior intervention plan get updated? Did you go through MTSS? And as we were sharing with them, there's so many different layers. And sometimes schools and teachers just need relief and support, okay? So to that end, one of the things that Dr. Hale mentioned, there's different types of equipment that you can buy for teachers for protection of students who may have those type of behaviors where they do lash out, and those are in the IEP. Now, do we want any of that happening? Absolutely not. But the reality is, these are some of the students that we have, not only here in Okaloosa County, but across this nation. So we have that. But then what can we do? One of the other things that we're looking at is our kindergarten through second grade students. That's where you see a lot of these behaviors as well. And so do you look at a school, so to speak, which are one of the things that we're investigating, a school, so to speak, where some of these students can go if it gets to a certain level, and we provide them resources to help them get back into the mainstream. But there's a lot that we're looking into, but kindergarten through second grade, you see a lot of these behaviors, just some of the disabilities that they have. But us continuing to work to help our teachers, help our schools, but also looking at legislation to make sure that we have partnership with families to help meet the needs of these students and support our teachers and schools.
And if I can just comment real quick on the presentations, I will just say that I think the people that we met with were really impressed with the fact that we weren't there asking for money. I think that shocked them that we did have an appropriation, but that's not what we were there for, not what the team was there for. And I think they were really impressed with all the data that we had, how it was very, very well written out. I think it caught some of them off guard a little bit because we had so much information. So I think that was a credit to our district, and Dr. Hale had putting together a good presentation. But overall, I thought the reception that we got was huge, just because of the fact that we came with a lot of data. And when you bring a lot of data to elected people that are going to be making the laws, that does make a big difference. So I will just say that part definitely made inroads with the folks and we met with some heavy hitters. I mean, these are the big people that are going to make a lot of the laws that are probably going to come through this session. So,
and Superintendent, as you were enumerating all the various steps that schools were compelled to go through, I think it's important for the public to know that many of those are federal laws that are required. And I think the state certainly can have some impact there, but I think certainly the federal government has something to do with all of those steps and all of those requirements that you mentioned.
Multiple layers.
Yeah. All right. Okay, anything else, colleagues, on that one? Superintendent, anything else?
Two other quick pieces. As you know, we're in the controlled open enrollment period. And so I wanted Mr. Spolsky to come forward and just kind of share where we are and then what the next steps are, just so the board and folks know.
Thank you, Superintendent Chambers. Board, good to see everyone. Happy Monday. I will just read this. This really kind of sets the stage. The Florida legislature recognized the value of organizational education, and more importantly, it wanted to provide numerous and meaningful options for our students and for our parents. So a few years ago, they literally directed each of us as school districts to come up with a controlled open enrollment plan, which is under section 1002.31. So I just put together a couple slides for the public, really for you as board members, so that we could dig into this for just a few moments about where we are with our COE process. Basically, students, parents can elect to go to any school in the state of Florida based on capacity and getting themselves there through transportation. But if we look at some of the bullet points here, this was to end February 15th, our first controlled open enrollment window. As you know, we went through a very interesting winter storm, so we felt like it was only natural for us to extend that window to the 22nd. Parents will start receiving information, emails, on the 23rd. That comes from the MIS department up there. Mr. Myers and Ms. Meserve and Ms. Ross help with all of those pieces. And then you see in the orange highlighted on the slide, parents that do apply for those areas have to either accept or decline those seats. So that helps with the registration process. Then in March, we will open up the window again, and we'll keep that open until school starts. It is very important for our families and for our students to know that if they're have already been selected for a seat through controlled open enrollment, they do not need to apply again for the following year. And then on our website, on the OCSD website, there's actually a controlled open enrollment capacity report, which shows 14, and it'll probably be 15 by the end of this week, of our schools are already closed. So all of the COE pieces here really have to do with that keyword capacity. And if our schools are at capacity, you know, as board members, senior staff knows that many of our schools are at capacity. That's why we're expanding schools through our capital projects, whether it be new classrooms or completely new campuses. So, and you can see the second to last bullet there. I mentioned it already, but it's important to know because this is a consideration. Our county is very long in terms of a rectangle, and if somebody wanted to come down and go to one of our schools near the base, because many of our parents and families live, let's say, in the central or the north end, and then they want to go to a school near the base, that they do have to provide transportation while they're on COE. So most importantly, Ms. Meserve and myself are continually monitoring this process. All right, this is very important. If we can get one student into a school that they want to go to, we want all of our families to be able to go to the schools that they want to go to. It just, you know, half of the battle with school is if you're at a place where you feel comfortable, you're at a place that's convenient, it offers the programs or the pipelines of that campus. We're working hard to make sure all of our customers, all of our families, and all of our kids have that opportunity. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I think it was told to me that if someone wants to go to a school and they're going to provide transportation, but it's been closed, they can apply for a hardship?
Yes, sir. Once we will go through the extended deadline there on the February 22nd, Mr. Heinley, and then we will literally create a list of hardships in order in which they are received through the COE email site. And then as openings come up, because parents will either declare, they'll accept, or they'll actually sometimes deny. We've had customers and parents over the years apply for 2 or 3 schools, and then they have to declare which of those they want to go to. So there's a little bit of movement there, but those hardships is a process in which students and parents could eventually end up at the school before school starts.
And these are initiated by the parents.
Absolutely.
Now, on the case of our rezoning, Mr. Myers, are we hand-holding those people that will be affected through this COE thing?
Great question, Mr. Hiley. Mr. Meyer and myself talked. I've already let MIS know, let Ms. Hupp know as well. As those hardships come through for some of those special cases, we will look very closely at those.
Thank you.
My last thing I do want to say is there's special consideration given to some groups. One is military dependent. One is those that have had to go through any kind of foster care programs. And then, of course, we prioritize for students within our district, too. If we had students that wanted to come from, let's say, Walton or Santa Rosa, we have to make sure we have enough room for our Okaloosa students first.
So, Mr. Spolsky, didn't you just say that most of our schools are at capacity?
15 of them are closed right now across the board. Some of them are closed just in certain grade levels. Ms.
Okay,
Vanchek.
so if they're closed, with the exception of doing a hardship, there's no way anybody could go there, right?
That is correct.
So right now, they would absolutely be closed except for hardship cases.
Correct.
And that's a lot of schools right there,
Yes,
15.
ma'am.
Okay.
And that is much of the reason of why we're doing some expansion, of why we're building new schools. The 5, the 7, the 10-year plan obviously will move some capacities around, but we also want to make sure that we have butts in seats for FTE. So I will tell you, I work very closely with those principals to expand, to make sure we fill those seats when the beginning of the year starts.
Right.
And then we go into the allocation process.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And so, just off the top of your head, what's our enrollment overall looking like now, student-wise?
It's about the same. Kindergarten last year we were a little light. However, middle school was heavy. So we're right in that 32,000 number. We're tracking. We don't have the third calculation from the FEFP yet, so that Ms. Perry, myself, and Ms. Meserve can run the models.
Right.
We when we went down to the legislature and we met with the chief of staff for budgeting down there, Denise Potvin, she said that once some of the wrinkles get ironed out down there amongst the legislators, we should have the third calc, and then we can run the models that we'll present to the board members.
So the enrollment's up, obviously, then, yeah. All right, thank you.
That's interesting because, we've commented before that often in the February count, we're a little lower. And it'd be interesting to see the final numbers there.
Mr. Chambers was very excited this year that we did not have a significant deficit as we have in previous years. And I will keep you posted on that, Dr. White.
Yeah.
Great.
Anything else?
And I think I would elaborate on that, not to the exact level of specificity. As you remember, last year we were down. This year, I believe we're close to 240 up, somewhere in that area. But I think the K2 is the area where we're lower from projections, but then, of course, then we make it up over different grade levels. But as you know, when you're in the Family Empowerment Scholarship world now, where it used to be a science of this is the projection, that science is very difficult now when you don't know specifically who's going to be here and who's not. I will say, and I don't want to go too far or too deep into this, as you know, the Family Empowerment Scholarship, which is in essence, has been wrapped into the FEFP, into the base student allocation. Right now, in terms of the governor's budget, it's outside, it's still within the budget, but it's its own line item. If it were to stay that way, Julie has run some numbers where it positively impacts us. So we also spoke to the legislature about that, just the importance of the Family Empowerment Scholarship and what it does for school districts. And when, simplistically, if a base student allocation, and these aren't the exact numbers, but if a base student allocation is 7,000, but Family Empowerment is pulling 9,000 for students, most of which never were in Okaloosa County schools, period, that's problematic. So Right now, we're hopeful that at least the governor's budget of that portion would remain. Julie, we set up a meeting with this budget chief for this Friday to be able to talk about Family Empowerment Scholarship, so she can give a little bit more information, because this person also helps provide advice, so to speak, to those making the decisions. So I think that's going to be good. And then there's a couple other conversations that we've set up for Julie to have as well.
And Dr. White, if I can make a comment real quick, he did, Mr. Spolsky did mention that we met with Karen Potvin, and I truly believe that without the help of our lobbyists and, of course, Dr. Hale making all these arrangements, that one particular meeting was huge. In my opinion, I mean, this is a person that this is what they do and live and breathe in Tallahassee. She's been doing it for like 30 years or something like that. So she has no allegiances to any particular party or governor. She laid it all out. And I know as a school board member, I was like, where have you been my entire 8 years as a school board member? It was really eye-opening, and I think, you know, having Miss Perry being able to have that conversation with her is hopefully make Julie's job a little bit easier, because we did comment that, you know, Julie sleeps with one eye open during this time of the year, because she's always faced with, you know, a lot of challenges when it comes to the money that comes in. But I think you're going to benefit from that. The district will benefit from that meeting. And we were just very fortunate that Ms. Potvin was like, let me speak to your CFO. I would love to speak to your CFO. So.
Then lastly, Dr. White, if Mr. Meyer come forward, I think it's important that we continue to update this board, the community, in terms of the progress that's happening with capital projects across our county.
Good morning. Always a pleasure to come and show some progress on the capital updates. The last time we did this, we really went back a year or two. I'm going to focus on first semester of this school year. As you know, we're wrapping up all the projects that were in task order 12. That was the multi-purpose buildings, the cafeterias, and the classroom additions. We have finished Niceville High School's multi-purpose building. That ribbon cutting is this week on Friday. We recently had ribbon cuttings at Plough and Ruckle. Those were finished over first semester, and Shalimar is complete, and that ribbon cutting will be shortly as well. Some other projects that were in task order 12 were sunshades. Most people don't realize there were some things in that task order that while we had construction companies on those sites, we were going to try to incorporate some of these other things the schools were asking for. So Choctaw, Destin Middle, Meigs, and Pryor all received sunshades. I got some pictures in a few slides. We also got a new chiller at Crestview High School, and Florosa had a new roof, which was a coating. So those were all completed first semester. There's Niceville High School's building, which we'll get to tour on Friday. Just like the other campuses, those buildings are game changers for those facilities, and we've gone over all the multi-uses that the schools can use these buildings for. Here's a couple detailed pictures of the front lobby, the space that teams and groups can use. This one does have a weight room as well. And again, we haven't talked about it, but each one of those facilities has new gang restrooms as well. So they're in locations that multiple sports and activities that are on those campuses that they could not only use the building, but for after-school activities and activities on the weekends, to have a restroom on these facilities is very helpful. So there's a few pictures of Niceville High School. Here's an example of the sunshades. This is at Meigs, and as you know, we have the Meigs old front office under construction. That's why there's a fence behind this. But so many of our campuses have outdoor areas that can be used for multiple things, not to include dining. Kids want to sit outside most of the year. Students can do that. So this is an area that puts them shade as they're out there.
Mr. Meyer, what's the estimated lifespan on a sunshade?
So the structure itself, we're going to get over 20 years. The sunshade itself is 10 to 15 years, and there is a warranty with those.
Do you know how long the warranty is?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look at it.
They've quoted some of these things for the restaurant.
Yes.
And they're not cheap. The structure
They're
ends up
not.
being, but I was just wondering, because Mr. Bryant was mentioning, yeah, they are kind of expensive. I just wanted to understand, you know, with the intensity of the sun and with our inclement weather, what could we reasonably expect from a lifespan on some of these? They're great. I love them.
They are. They
But-
are. And pending weather and storms, I think we're going to get 10 years out of the tops.
Are they snow rated?
I don't know if we looked at that, but maybe we need to.
So the actual cover on it, can that, like if we have a hurricane? or
It
something,
can
that
come
be
down,
taken
yes,
off?
yes.
Okay,
So
okay.
a lot of playgrounds have the same similar structures, and they'll do that throughout the county as well. So that's Meg's, and Dr. White, you're familiar with that
Oh, yeah.
area there?
I recognize it.
Yes, sir. So the
And Mr.
plant-
Meyer.
Yes, sir.
And like you just said, Dr. White will definitely know this, but you look at Meg's, but then you go to different cafeterias across the district as well. And the capacity is what the capacity is right now. And you know, we've built several cafetoriums now throughout the district going through that process, but there's still cafeterias that were built for, let's just say, 500 kids, and now there's 700 students in those cafeterias. So there's still work to be done, but these types of projects right here, it does, in essence, expand the capacity on most days, but it's just an example of there's still more work to do.
And we've tried different approaches, as you know. Some of our schools have covered steel
That's right.
areas for the same purpose that were bought a long time ago. I'd hate to think what those cost now.
Yes, sir.
Compared to the cost of that. So, yeah.
That's a good point. Here is Pryor Middle School on the left. The bottom is Destin Middle School, and Choctaw is on the right. So each one of those, we finished up with the sunshades. Cafeteria buildings, this is PLU. Not only did we get the building completed, the new bus ramp, some parking area, and some playgrounds all there. You can just see on that campus the size of that building. So we've talked about that before.
I recognize that one too.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Meyer, before you go forward, and this board knows, so again, on these cafetoriums, many of which either the car rider line has been expanded, which is huge for that community, getting the cars off the road, or the bus roads have been expanded as well. So I think that's a big part of these projects.
Like the other ones at the elementary schools, we have a music room on the back side of these buildings. Not to mention, and it goes without saying, they're all new kitchens, and the kitchen staff and food service love these, and it's just been a game changer. Ruckel Cafeteria as well. Again, you can see the size of that building next to their practice field and the weight room there. And they have the one middle school that received this building. It has a STEM classroom in the backside. Shalimar recently completed, again with the restrooms. Also, the teachers' lounge. There's a space for the teachers to eat lunch in there as well. So currently, we have in
And Mr. Meyer,
progress-
before you go, with the cafetoriums, just for the board as well, so there's the cafeteria aspect of it, but then there's also the multi-purpose building aspect of it as well. A lot of them have a middle section, so PE, if it's hot or cold, those kids are coming in and also doing PE in there as well.
PLU, if you guys went to the ribbon cutting at PLU, on stage, those kids played the violins, and it was amazing. So it was really good to see. This is in progress. Bob Sykes Cafetorium is just about complete. We do have auditorium upgrades, and I got a slide for that. Concession stands at Fort Walton Beach High School and Crestview High School. There's two pictures at the bottom. The one on the bottom left is Fort Walton Beach, and the one in the middle is Crestview High School. Meg's, again, that's construction's been going on a while. Mary Esther in Fort Walton Beach, that is 2 pictures of Mary Esther. What they're having to do is cut through the roof and put those units and new curbs. About half of the building is done at this time. And then, of course, our new school construction, Pineview School and Destin Elementary, I have a few slides for that as well.
Dr. White, I have a question for Mr. Meyer. So Bob Sykes, I know that's the last one.
Yes, sir.
We talked about the new like bus ramps and all that. How is this cafetorium going to help with the traffic problem that we have at Bob Sykes? Will this help alleviate some of the issues there, you think?
We hope so. There's still the bus rider is on the other side of the building,
right.
But getting some traffic away from that area because of the location of this one,
right,
it's just going to help.
Thank you.
Sir.
I receive those calls as well.
Right. Here's an example of what we're doing in the auditoriums. This is Crestview High School. So you can tell that we did the lighting. We painted. This one received new seats and flooring as well. So Crestview was the first one to get their flooring done. Choctaw, Niceville, and Fort Walton all had the flooring up. And last week and this week and next week they're going to install that flooring. But that's a good example of.
Do you know when Crestview was built?
In the
68.
Yeah, 60s.
My birthday year.
When I went and toured it, they said the original seats in that auditorium
Correct.
were there.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So that's a great example of what we're trying to do, just to update some of our facilities. Here's a few pictures of where Pineview is going to sit. On the top left, that was our ribbon cutting. But you can tell on the larger picture that is more recent, and they have where some of the foundation is going to be, rebar in the ground now, so they're moving quickly. So keep you updated on that.
That's just within a month or 2
Just
months?
yeah, very quickly. They are working hard, and every day there's a lot of people out there on site.
So I was on my way to Baker actually Saturday, and they're really working on that road there. Where they're doing a turn lane and getting all that going in there and the exit, and so it's from that side off of PJ Adams, that side.
Yes.
And then I guess on the other side, there looks like they're kind of getting with it. You can go in that way too. So.
Yes, and I think purposely they're leaving a section out because they don't want people on the bypass yet.
Yes.
They're still working on it, but they're moving quickly, and the county is reassuring us that that's going to be ready. The bridge is going to be done in time for when the school opens.
Because it sits basically about middle ways between
is.
90 and the other side of.
That's right.
With PJ Adams and everything, so.
Yeah, and I think that bridge is just about done. So you're starting to see them actually do work on the north end of the bridge, which is going to connect to Highway 90 in Old Bethel. So
is that going up over, you said where Antioch sits, it goes up and around, right?
It does. It goes
So
from
it's
where
going to go
Antioch
up,
sits
over, yeah,
north and ties into 90.
yeah.
This is Destin Elementary. The larger picture was a few weeks ago, and the bottom picture is more recent. And you can see that they've cut around for the foundation to start. So they're moving along with that facility as well. So it's great to see. This is some of our maintenance projects that were done in-house. Mr. McElroy is overseeing some of these. And this was just in first semester. But sometimes we forget, because we're doing such large projects with Jacobs and Lord & Son, that our maintenance guys are also doing as much as possible. And they had to move 6 portables at Destin Elementary at the beginning of the semester, just to have classes ready. And then we could move on the new site where the new building is going to be. It's not an easy thing, because you have to move utilities and power and ramps and ADA compliant, and it takes time. So those guys work hard to get things ready when we need to. They've done a lot of cleaning up around buildings. They've done paving, groundwork. We've done some restroom renovations. OTC building had some drainage issues. They were out there. Fencing in multiple locations. They help install scoreboards, playgrounds, and flooring. So we've got a few pictures of this. The one in the middle is Niceville High School restroom. that had epoxy and new partitions. The one on the bottom is Shalimar Playground, and I'll give a few more examples. This is Crestview High School's chiller replacement. This is a area behind Niceville High School that the ROTC uses. It was a parking lot. ROTC did not have a designated pad for their to march, so we worked with the school and our maintenance department, and Bill Smith helped get this done over first semester, and Coach Hensley and that group is excited about just walking out their back door and be able to do their routines. Baker School, one example of where the students walk. This is a sidewalk. You could compare the left to the right. Just small projects like this go a long way in our schools. ADA compliant sidewalk at Destin Middle, that was from the baseball bleachers to the concession stand. There was never a sidewalk. So this is some of the things that they're getting done throughout the county. Over the breaks, whether it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, or spring break, we try to do larger projects like this. This is Elliott Point. There was a storm culvert that had some issues, and we had to dig it up and then put it back before students and parents. This is right in the front of the school. So, you know, when you got a week to get something done, you got to move quick, but the maintenance guys did a good job of staging that and then getting it done. Bruner Middle School, this was the area where they had tennis courts and a basketball court. So we redid the tennis courts that were there, but also expanded this to add an additional tennis court, and it turned out phenomenal.
Mr. Chair, I have a question on this.
Yes, sir.
We have a new pandemic in this country. It's called pickleball. Has it hit our school systems yet?
Yes. We have multiple principals and PE coaches wanting pickleball. So in most cases, we can do both. We can do tennis and pickleball. You have different color lines. The tennis coaches are the obstacle to get because if you put pickleball lines on a tennis court, it doesn't meet the regulations for a true tennis match. So.
But you know what? They have those portable pickleball courts and those multi-purpose rooms are perfect for that.
Correct.
And then they're inside, they don't have to worry about it, and they can line it up.
That's
So
right.
that's cool.
That's great.
Well, and on the pickleball, this board supported every, I believe it's every school received pickleball equipment that they could use during PE. So I know the PE coaches were excited about that.
They were. Bruner Middle School, we overlaid the front parking lot and restriped that, and it just goes a long way. So, you know, some of these parking lots haven't done for a long time, and it just cleans it up and brightens up the front of the school. Also working with the school, and some of these projects, I will say, are school funded or capital funded, or they come to you guys and ask for funds, and then we work with either contractors or our maintenance department to get some of these done. This is a great example of a combination of these funds where the media center needed to be updated, and we did the flooring. So again, we did it over the break. Also included the teacher's lounge that was just outdated. They weren't using it. You clean it up, and now they're using it. And also, this was the restroom near the gym that needed to be updated as well. So Bruner was getting some things done first semester.
Mr. Meyer, I probably could ask you this more easily after the meeting, but since I got you and we're talking about Bruner, I did a visit 2 weeks ago, right after the snowstorm. All of the stuff that has happened at Bruner is fantastic. They did discover some new roof leaks, and they've got some issues. Can you just tell me where that sort of stands?
Sure. So there's several roofs throughout the county that are on our priority list. And depending on where they fall in, if they have issues, we're either trying to patch it until the funds are available to do the entire roof. Bruner has been talked about for the last 2 years, but they are scheduled within the next 2 years to have a complete roof. However, there's also HVAC and piping systems that are on that roof that we want to schedule to do at the same time. So logistically, trying to work both of those projects at once. It's the timing of it.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So Bruner, playgrounds throughout the county over the last several years, we've done a lot of schools, but first semester we did playgrounds at Plough and Shalimar. This is another example of our in-house maintenance group. There was a building at Crestview High School that has been left unattended for a while, and it needed some care, so we went in there and painted it, put new ceilings and lights, and we're working on the flooring, and now it's usable space. This is an example of one of our board members helping out a school that had some old flooring and carpeting. This happens to be Edge, and in their two main hallways, they had new carpet installed, so it turned out great. And just the staff and the principal and the parents that walk through that building, when things are updated, it just goes a long way. So,
And that's a 100-year-old building, right?
yes,
Yeah. It's about to have its centennial or
That's right.
something like that.
yes. So that is what's going on capital-wise in first semester. Here's one more example. I'm sorry. Baseball and football scoreboards. The schools actually helped fund this, but our maintenance department installed them and hooked it up. So I appreciate it.
Sorry. And while, of course, the priorities at schools, we've also updated the facility here for the workers. So just for the public to know. So maybe in the future we can show that everybody doesn't come here, how much it's changed in this facility as well, so that those workers have new places. And, the important thing with these new facilities is, there's studies and all that, but everybody knows that there's a sense of pride in a new facility like that, and it does help the students as far as education to be in an environment that's nice and well done. And I just think it can't be understated that how important it is for our students and teachers to be in these new facilities and have these new facilities. And of course, this is the most expansive capital we've had since really back when our school district was starting. I think in the 60s, we were building schools very quickly in that time frame. But this is such a major undertaking, and I think it's just wonderful for our entire district. So thanks for the report.
All right, anything else, Superintendent?
No, sir.
All right, very good. All right, so board members' announcements, section 13. Mr. Heinley, I'll start with you.
Okay, so Mr. Destin and I went down to a finance conference in Gainesville, and Mr. McGinnis, we might have had a sunshine law infraction because we both bilaterally decided that Julie Perry cannot retire while we're on the board, period, dot. So you better hope we don't stay on the board very long. No, we learned a lot. Man, school board financing is complicated, but it was a great conference. 2 Saturdays ago, Niceville High School cheer team won their state championship for the 6th year in a row. And last night, Ruckle cheer team won first place national champs. So kudos to them. And continuing the tradition, today is the 10th. School board members and superintendent. Who was the 10th president of the United States?
Tyler.
Ah.
So I do have some information if I can share, because I knew about this years ago, but I did look it up just to make sure I was stating a fact. So Tyler is actually a very busy president when it came to family. He had 15 children, and he actually still has a grandson, a living grandson, who is 99 years old, I believe. So and I think that's like 240 years since his birth. So he actually has a living grandson. So I thought that was really interesting. So I did look it up just to make sure I had my facts straight. So
That's all I have.
Wow.
Okay, all right, thank you. Ms. Evanchik?
Yes. Well, while we're speaking on capital improvements, I do want to, just for the record, tell the board that I did attend the February 3rd Value Adjustment Board meeting that this board selected me to be on. I don't talk much about it because there's not a whole lot to really announce, but this board, of course, is under our county appraisers, capital appraisers group, and this is where individuals or companies contest their taxes. And of course, with us, of course, doing taxes, that's why I'm on that board from representing our district. And so that actually, this particular meeting on February 3rd ended the year for 2024, where they can send the tax rolls to the state. So that's it's a very interesting thing to be on because it's a different avenue from what we do on the school board. Okay, a couple of great things. The Baker boys basketball team won their district championship the other night and will play in the first round of regional competition this Wednesday against Paxton. So looking for that, for the guys to do that. So congratulations to them. Then Saturday night, I was at Baker attending a Valentine's Day dinner and concert at Baker School. And this is so neat because, as we know and we've toured, Baker has a state-of-the-art culinary lab there. And so it was great to see the culinary students do the dinner. They did an Italian dinner choice that, you know, Olive Garden should watch out or hire them to do that. And so they prepared and served the meal. And then the jazz band entertained all of us who were attending. And it's so great to see the two programs coming together, working together, and presenting this. It was very well attended, and it was a great collaboration. So I do want to thank Mr. Jonathan Longman, who's head of the culinary program there, and the band director, Mr. Stuart Campbell, for inviting me and having me there. It was very impressive what these students did. And then on a sad note, I would like to recognize that we have lost a longtime beloved former Okaloosa County educator and a personal friend of mine, and Mr. Billy Michael. Mr. Michael was a native of Okaloosa County, graduating from Choctaw High School in 1967, and then he served in numerous positions in our school district: teacher, coach, dean, assistant principal, and a principal at Lewis Middle School. And I can tell you, being a friend of his and being around him for most of my life, he had a really positive influence on a countless number of students. He was always so positive and willing to give those students some counseling. Many of them sought out his words of wisdom after they graduated and became adults. But he also was a very positive influence on his fellow educators. I know even when I was not only as a teacher at Choctaw, but when I was a candidate for this position on the board, he spoke with me and encouraged me, and was always got that advice going. And I was telling Mr. Spolsky, Mr. Michael was always saying a bunch of things, and he had been around a long time, and you talked to him, and you weren't really sure if what he was telling you was the truth, but he made it very convincing, and you're just like, okay, let's go. So anyone that was around Mr. Michael for even a brief time knew how much he loved being an educator and his love for Okaloosa County School District. So I just want to extend our condolences to his family. His wife, Susan, is a retired teacher in Okaloosa County, and one of his daughters is currently a teacher in our district. So hate to see that we've lost Mr. Michael. That's all I have.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Mr. Bryan?
Thank you, Dr. White. And real quick, Mr. Heinley, I do appreciate the fact that you keep us on our toes. History was always one of my favorite subjects, so I truly appreciate that, being able to keep me on my toes when it comes to our presidents. And usually people don't realize after the top 5 presidents and then the presidents that they've seen in their lifetimes, how much our presidents have had an effect on our country. And so I really appreciate you keeping me on my toes with that. But I will just say that I had the opportunity last week to visit Crestview High School just to go check out a new program, not a new program, but they have a simulator ambulance now. And Miss Hayden gave me an opportunity, or took me through the classroom where it's at, and we're also going to be making a 911 call center there, a simulated call center. So that was pretty neat to see. You know, just all the great things that CTE is bringing. I see Miss Beasley's already left, but there's so many great programs out there. And you know, I was talking to somebody the other day about how back in the day they went to shop class or home ec class, and you know, Miss Ivanchek talked about the culinary arts program at Baker. You know, shop and home ec isn't today's shop and home ec. It's a totally different approach. And not only are these students learning how to cook and how to, you know, do cars and everything else, they're getting certifications for these, and you're really seeing you're really tapping into some of these students that might have never known that they had a passion for that until they actually get their hands on it. And I'm so thankful that our school district has invested in the CTE program to the heights that's where it's at now. And you know, and at Crestview High School, I know they're leading the way in a lot of these classes. We also had opportunity to visit with one of the teachers there, and we talked about the Fort Walton Beach teacher being an awesome math teacher. Well, we actually met with one of the awesome math teachers at Crestview High School, and that was Miss Anilon, I think is how Allion, that's how that's pronounced. And she actually was at Bob Sykes for many years, and decided that she loved elementary, but she always wanted the challenge of algebra. And you know, we had a chance to go and visit with her classroom, and you know, just to talk to her, and her passion for math was, you know, just something that you'd love to hear, and the students really respond to her too. But it just goes to show you that we have a lot of dedicated teachers across the school district, and we can go to any school and point out all of, you know, these teachers and highlight them, and it would take us years and years and years to just highlight all of them. But we do appreciate all of our teachers. And as a school board member, you know, being able to go into the classroom and seeing this, and I know this board, all of us do that, you know, it gives us a great feeling, you know, when you actually go into the classroom unannounced and you're watching them, you know, do their job. And, you know, it's just such a treat to me to be able to see the results that we're getting from the teachers that we have today. And like it was mentioned with our legislative visit, you know, teachers, you know, it's a whole different world out there for them. And we were talking about some schools, some colleges are actually doing away with their education programs because they just don't have enough people who are interested in being a teacher. And I really appreciated Mr. Diaz talking about how can we think outside the box to, like I said, make it easier for people who might not have had an education mindset in their first career, but now want to come in and be a teacher and help it to be easier for them to make that transition. So, but other than that, it was a great visit, and thank you, Mr. Chambers and Dr. Hale, Mr. Spolsky, Catherine. Thank you for the day. We put about 10,000 steps on, so if that tells you how much walking we did. So. Thank you, Dr. White.
Yes, sir. All right, Mr. Destin.
Thank you, Dr. White. I only had one little thing. I think most of the board members received an email with regards to the 27th. I believe we have a ribbon cutting at Chalmar in the morning, but in the afternoon, we're going to have an opportunity to take a look at STEM, all the students who have created projects for the Florida History Day competition, which, if you guys remember last year, we had some of our students not only go to Tallahassee, compete, and they won. And I want to thank Superintendent Chambers for making sure that we found the resources to send our students up to DC to compete. And when I say that is I think we are developing a national caliber set of students and program to where we really are something special and remarkable when it comes to showcasing our understanding and our proliferation and exposure of history to the general public. So there will be an opportunity to go to STEM and take a look at this year's competition. this year's competitors, the projects and the time that they've put into it. So I would encourage all of you to go to that. I'll be there. The Florida Historical Commission, of which I'm a member, works with the Secretary of State closely to grab judges and make sure that the general public participates and at the Tallahassee level. So if any of you have an interest in potentially being judges of the Tallahassee competition, I think any of you would be really, really well received if you wanted to do it. But on the 27th at STEM, we're going to have an opportunity to take a look at Okaloosa's contribution, what they're going to take over to Tallahassee. So please, please go. I know I'll be there. Other than that, I think that's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Thank you, Mr. Destin. All right, so I may have a couple of things tonight. I just want to make sure I get the right placings correct. All right, is there anything else here? Okay. All right, staff, association. Okay, this meeting's adjourned.